Undead are known by many names, such as the Awoken, the Hollow, or the Empty Ones. Spooky. Or the Corpse Eater that we found in the last episode. So, hi and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Roadwarden. Dive back into our save. So we're at Eudocia's place in the east of the peninsula. And today is the day, I think. Today is the day we're going to head west and we're going to go into the forest at the heart of this peninsula. I have no idea what we're going to find there. Hopefully not our end, though it's always possible. I mean, I don't think we could be any more prepared for this than we currently are. I'm a little bit hungry, I suppose. Not particularly clean. However, full health, full armor, full magic. We could eat food rations to get our... Actually, no. For some reason, I did this in the last episode, but it hasn't carried over for some reason. I think I just ate my fish. So let's do that again. Yeah, we've got a shiny new axe as well. A little bit of money left. We've got a spirit rock, sorry, I can only call it a soul stone. A spirit rock. If we run out of magic, we can recharge ourselves. So yeah, so I think this is it. I think we're gonna head in. The path leads downward through the hills. The forest gets thicker, and the signs of human touch are rare. The lone large boulder surely draws attention. You can't guess its age, but the paths around it suggest it was passed plenty of times already. You stop Roach and take a closer look. The remains of red paint are covering the eastern side. It's the same message as the one you saw at the southern crossroads. Don't enter. Danger ahead. You look down the dark road and hear the distant roar of a dragon. I scratch Roach's neck. I'm ready. You can't help but smile. Your palfrey's knicker brings you comfort. No matter how dark it's going to get, the sky above your heads is bright and blue. Now let's search for the tracks we found at the watchtower. The hard heels can't be mistaken, and the travellers didn't mask their steps. They passed the rock from both sides, heading deeper into the forest. I guess we travel. We don't want to head to the gate in the west. Or do we? No, that's presumably what we do want to do. Sorry, I got my directions mixed up. Let's do that. The stream ahead can be crossed by a humble ford made of hundreds of rocks that used to reach from the bottom to the surface, but is now partially demolished either by time or a living creature. For a rider, crossing it won't be much of a problem, but most travellers would have to take off their pants and shoes. Moving an entire wagon would pose quite a challenge. The water is clean and the banks are low, a good watering spot for Roach. If I could spend some time gathering larger rocks and throwing them into the water, what would I do? Why would I do that? Okay, well, maybe to make the crossing slightly easier. Okay, well, let's do that. We've got 12 hours before dusk. Alright, let's do an hour. You let Roach graze and drink by the stream. You wander along the edge of the dark forest on one side and a colourful meadow on the other, and you seek rocks smaller than your head. Carrying them makes you tired quickly. After you're done, the deepest holes are now filled by your rocks. Okay, it's enough. Let's move on. The colours of leaves range from greens to purples and overwhelm you with shadows. The stems of the shrubs twisted in all directions, seeking the slightest scraps of sunlight. The trees are not too tall, but their trunks are as wide as buildings. The neglected road has been carved into the thicket, an inch at a time, a corridor of plants with a floor made of pebbles that give way to saplings and vines. From time to time you pass by many turns, relics left by roaming dragons, unicorns and trolls. Some of them are still used by beasts, boars, striped cats, or packs of goblins. The birds are sharing their songs as cheerful as ever. When necessary, I'll clear any thicket that's in Roach's way. You reach a gap in the tunnel of plants. The meadow nourishes a lonely tree, growing in the shadow of a rocky hill surrounded by humble grasses. Near the tree roots, a wolf without fur is feasting on a human corpse, unaware of your presence. Look at the corpse. You don't see much from afar. It's in one piece with blood-soaked clothing torn to pieces, indistinguishable from the loose flaps of skin. It has no sacks, bags, or equipment, but you spot a trail of blood leading into the trees. The creature must have dragged the shell from the deeper woods. The beast raises its head. Its ears are shaking. We don't want to fight this thing. We're going to leave this quickly as we can. Roach obeys gladly. The beast spares you a glance, but doesn't follow you. Maybe the beast will break the bones before they get touched by the fog. Let's have a quick look at the map and see how far in we are. Okay. Nearly halfway? Your eyes wander between the wall of trees and shrubs on one side and the dirty pond on the other. The road itself is wide, covered with soggy logs that keep the ground from turning into mud. It's breaking under your mount's hooves, letting out what sounds like a sigh of relief. The water insufferably stinks of carrion and is covered with a blanket of green plants and white flowers that draws countless buzzing insects. Even a horse shouldn't drink from it. Roach tries to get familiar with the unusual pavement and speeds up to jump over a fallen trunk blocking your path. Once it lands, it breaks one of the logs in half. Soon after, you reach a massive black saurian resting on the ground, enjoying the light at the edge of the forest. It seems to be ignoring your presence. Once again, Roach canters. I trust its instincts. Once the monster raises its head, you're already in the air. The beast pushes itself away from the ground with its forelimbs, trying to catch any chunk of flesh with its massive jaws, but you safely hit the ground and return to a trot slowly. I pay attention to the dead trees sticking out the pond. They look similar to that saurian. Sound a bit like crocodiles, don't they? The road is bright, empty, surrounded by sparsely growing trees, gentle hills and meadows. It leads you to a cairn, a pile of rocks ranging in size from your abdomen to your fist. There's also quite a few tiny pebbles. A narrow, hardly passable trail leads south, but likely won't survive another year without travellers. Let's look for the tracks first. Without a doubt, the travellers were here, led by the person in hard heels, though there are more tracks around, both older and younger. Tracks go west. Let's have a look at the cairn. It's wider than two people standing side by side and taller than Roach. The grass surrounds it tightly. It must be years old, but could just as well be older than any village in the north. You find rocks in many colours, including red, cream, white, black and blue, and many dotted or mixed ones. While the cairn stays firmly beneath your touch, it would be easy to shatter it with a pickaxe or a single swipe of a dragon. You also notice pieces of old chicken bones pressed among the rocks. Unfortunately, no coins. Now we can use a spell here. Is it to detect magic? Yeah, okay. We're going to use our amulets to try and detect any pneuma. Okay, well, you unpack the wooden spheres, pleasantly smooth and light. The entire set fits in the palm of your hand. You place them in various spots in the cairn, and one on the nearby ground just in case. All you can do now is wait, so you spend a few minutes making sure that no creature tries to sneak behind napping Roach. When you gather your amulets, they're not much warmer than your skin. The spell filling the rocks is either weak or dwindling from age. Okay, could we place a rod here? You look for snakes in the grass, grab the reins and climb uphill, through the sparse flowers and grass as green as a merchant's dress. The few trees you pass by are healthy, but unremarkable, more like shrubs with trunks. You get a nice look from the top of the hill, but even from here you can't see the tips of the trees to the north and west. You're surrounded by the walls and blankets of greenery. You approach the closest scrubby tree with thick branches that grow right above the ground. I prepare the rod. You allow Roach to graze and then step on the lower branches, getting up quickly. You lean your weight against the dry bough, holding the bronze rod with one hand and tying it with the other. In no time you land back on the grass. I climb down the hill. How are we doing for time? 9 hours 15 before dusk. Yeah, we're going to head west. The tracks soon turn north into an old game trail, wide enough for your mount to enter the thicket. After a few minutes and with little effort, you reach an even wider trail. You get back in the saddle and ride uphill, following a convenient rocky trail covered in sunlight and cleared of plants. Once you get to the top, you look around. From here, you get a good view of the heart of the woods and spot the smoke coming from the villages, far in the distance. The further path ends at the ravine. You look over the edge, at the gentle brook far below. The hole is too wide to be crossed with a jump, even for Roach. You narrow your eyes. On the other side is a simple bridge made of logs and ropes, now rolled up and resting by a green shrub. Grappling hook. Have we even been offered a grappling hook? Possibly. Even though it may take a lot of time and effort, try to walk around the gully. I mean, good look at the map. It doesn't say how near or far we are from the abandoned watchtower. Ooh-wee, okay. Alright, let's do it. Oh wow, we're filthy and a bit hungry. Moving downhill is filled with sweat and blood as well as disappointment. To lead your palfrey down, you are forced to seek the gentlest slopes and ledges. Your arms are burning from swinging the axe. Thankfully, the small critters stay away from you and you can rest at the crystal clear water while Roach quenches its thirst. Finally, you get back to the main road, which leads right back to the forest. At least I can use the bridge on my way back. The trail is canopied by overhanging trees and so narrow that your mount would struggle to turn around. Staying on foot, you grab the lead rope and follow the corridor carved in the lush thicket. Try to ignore the scent of rotting leaves. Soon after, the path widens a bit. You notice a shell larger than your own torso. Its 8 legs are as long as you are tall, clinging to a tree that's on your way. You freeze. The dark, hairy thorax matches the browns of the plants. Okay, we'll look at it from a safe distance. What are you looking for or paying attention to? Example tree. Well, I'll just say spider now, shall I? It's large enough to hunt for humans. Its 8 legs are as long as you are tall. Clinging to a dark hair. Okay, well, that's the same thing, isn't it? Look for something else. Web? There's no web in sight. You're not sure how the spider manages to cling to the tree. Teeth? Okay. Path? The plants are pruned. You see hardly any grass, and there are even footprints. What else could we look for? Jaws? The eyes and fangs seem to never move. Is it real? Let's have a look at it again. Okay, we'll look for tree then. The trees are young and lush, hardly reaching above the undergrowth and canopying the trail. The fallen twigs and bark were pushed off the trail. We turn around. The nearby shrubs are shaking. You hear the sounds of a fight. After you get closer, the battling creatures run deeper into the woods. Alright, let's go back. So far, the spider hasn't moved an inch. I poke it with a stick. Yeah, that's why I'm not convinced this is real. You step slowly, picking up a long branch resting at the side of the trail. Once you tap the abdomen, you let out a relieved sigh. You observe the spider's dried out shell. In such a humid place, you'd expect it to rot. Roach pulls the lead, begging to turn around. I comfort it with the sound of my voice. Ooh. Hello. The path is beaten, yet your mount has to step over branches, large rocks, and even animal bones. While the trees aren't pruned, they grow sparse enough for you to have a good view of your surroundings. A pile of rotting logs, the remains of food, and even a broken wagon rest at the feet of the crag. You look up. The palisade has a massive gap in it, which now serves as a vantage point for a person you can't see clearly. They're holding an arrow on their strong bow, and while they aren't aiming at you, they'd have enough time to shoot you before you got off the saddle.
"You've a horse,"
the masculine voice announces loudly, then stares at you.
"Thought my deer was running, I did. Almost shot it in the nose."
Another pause.
"Who?"
I shout back, "Sir Boring, a Roadwarden." The archer crouches as if watching you from 2 feet closer is going to make a difference. He shouts, but more so towards someone behind the wall.
"Wait, another Roadwarden? You sure do look like you rode through 10 swamps. Head up, but I got my eyes on you, I do."
The hamlet could be a generation old, while the freshly beaten paths, spread trash and newly fallen trees and gathered rocks make it clear that the dwellers are still altering their surroundings. The woods around you are filled with wildlife, crowding in the tree crowns, grasses and trunks. A boar flees up the path, keeping its eyes on you as it runs. A dragonling is drinking from the pond you just rode by. There are a few people gathered at the gate, and more of them approach you from behind. You count 8 of them in total, with only one female face among them. All are younger than 40, with weapons at their sides or in their hands. Simple flails, 2-handed axes on long hafts, maces, spears, throwing clubs. Equipment so heavy and unwieldy that you can't be sure if it's meant to threaten you, or to get through the skin of nearby monsters if necessary. Some of those who came through the open gate have bare chests, displaying their scars and bandages, but the others are wearing heavy jackets and look nothing like pure farmers seeking shelter for a night. They observe your mount in silence, together with the curious rooks sitting on top of the wall. Well, I'm going to get down slowly and keep my open hands in the air. I think these are the bandits, right? I got an achievement for visiting every settlement in the peninsula. One of the strangers nods in approval, while another gestures for you to step away from your mount, making sure you're not hiding anything.
"All right, leave here every blade, tie the beast somewhere."
He points with his thumb behind him, leading your eyes to a loose stake of the palisade.
"Gloucester's on her way,"
he adds matter-of-factly, as if to a regular waiting for an alehouse keeper. You follow his commands, waiting with the dwellers in silence. From afar, you hear the heavy footfalls of the person who joins you soon after. Her massive winter boots are made of leather that still remembers the garnet dye of the past, and have wide and firm heels. The bronze of the decorative buckles is polished, without a hint of green. Her emerald eyes are running over your mount and your equipment, reaching your face last and with little curiosity. She's broad-shouldered, with a muscular figure and round face. Her long, shining mail rests on a green accaton, making noise with every movement of her arms. Her right hand is tapping the hilt of the sickle sword, a broad blade meant for chopping not just flesh but also twigs, sheathed at her side. The short, dark hair of a fighter is carefully cut, and her skin is healthily tanned. It takes another few breaths for you to notice the other side of her appearance. While she's wider than anyone in sight, she's more than a head shorter than you. You spot the grey strands of her hair and wrinkles cut by scars on her lips and cheeks. Her hand is missing a thumb, explaining why the blade is on her right side, and an old bruise surrounding her left eye hinders her from fully opening it, so it's difficult for you to match her gaze. She must be quite a fighter. I don't think she's acting or performing. "A palfrey this time?" Her confident, powerful voice matches her straight posture. She reaches for the bottom of Roach's neck, slowly, allowing it to accept the touch after a moment of hesitation. "It's more for running than combat, I believe. The Saurian was dangerous, but slower without much stamina." You look for a reason why she would lecture you about your own trade, then notice the curious eyes of her band, listening to every word. It may be the first horse they've ever seen. "Stranger," she looks at you again and steps back. "I heard about your arrival to the peninsula, but I didn't expect we'd see you at our doorstep. We don't have much to discuss. Tell me you ain't stupid enough to provoke my hand." Let's be friendly. I see no reason why we can't have a friendly conversation. Her voice grows colder. "I see plenty. For all I know, you're yet another city spy. If I were to learn you're here more to hinder our work," she pauses, "than to fight beasts, I'd have a light heart letting you bleed your neck out right where you are." You look to your left and right. No matter how many hours of training you have behind you, the sheer number of opponents would overwhelm you. But let us leave the threats for later. Take a stroll with me. I ain't missing a chance to enjoy the rest of the summer. She heads north, and before you decide what to do next, someone pushes you forward with the blunt edge of a spear. I guess I go north then. The neglected path leads to a pond, though the rocks sticking out of the ground, fallen branches, and the rotten deck covering a wide puddle. There are some signs of repairs made on the bridge for fishers, but there are also some broken logs and a boat with a large hole in its hull. Glaucia and 2 of her guards walk with you in silence, surrounded by the screeching beasts around and above you. She takes leisurely strides, and as you step onto the bridge, looking across the pond, you can see that the woods surround it from all sides, like the walls of a dungeon chamber, with green and grey saurians basking both on the banks and in the shallow water. The frogs, flies, and black birds shatter any guise of peace. The wood beneath you is slippery. Whenever the woman makes a sudden movement, you flinch, preparing your shell to push her away. Don't have any doubts, she speaks calmly, looking in the distance. I have little trust to offer you, and even less patience. It's better that we meet this way instead of on the road. She turns towards you and moves her hand behind her back. But if you have no good reason to talk to me, you can scat right away. This land needs no soldiers, Roadwarden, and chiefly, no city folk. I could use your knowledge to help people. I'm sure you know these woods well. There are some who could use another hand, I'll agree. But there are also those who deserve nothing better than to be thrown into an elk pit. If you want my help, make me believe you can tell them apart. Without another word, she leads you back, then through the gate. The old, rotting roof of the only building is starting to bend under its own weight, but its condition is only slightly worse than that of the area around it. The broken tools, soggy planks and logs, the broken fence of an animal pen, and the waist-high nettle leaves growing on every scrap of ground that's not been beaten down by boots. The hamlet smells of putridity. The screeching of animals isn't as overwhelming here, but unlike in the other settlements, there's hardly any labour to fill the emptiness. The bandits either follow you or sit around idly. There's firewood gathered by the wall, and you see someone eating a piece of cold, roasted meat. But it seems like no one is eager to grab a hammer, a needle, or a carving knife. Glaucia doesn't stop, making you follow her around the long shelter. She keeps her eyes straight ahead, not commenting on anything as you walk by. With every step, her mail jangles slightly, breaking the silence. Your eyes either wander around or stare at the back of her head. You've made Ieson quite worried with your recent moves, or Layson. I think we're saying Layson? Maybe. She slows down. The 2 of you approach the old animal pen, though right now it's inhabited only by rooks and worms. She leans against the soggy fence, which moans in protest. Her emerald eyes don't hide her surprise or perfectly imitate it. I suppose I should have expected Layson's boar eyes on me. But what does he want you to get from me exactly? To learn what you're trying to achieve? Are you planning to attack his hunters? It takes her an unusually long time to answer. All right, tell him this, stranger. Don't sweat. The right leads my blade and dreams against the necromancers of White Marshes. Also, bed with an ibex. I think that's go F a goat in other parlance. I found an abandoned cart on the eastern trail. She keeps her pace, forcing you to stare at her hair, then stops outside the gate looking around. And you drop this arrow there. She freezes, then turns around too quickly for you to notice how it ends up in her hand. Your fingers are aching for the next few minutes. Cheers for returning it to me. She scowls at you and throws the arrow to one of her guards. I ain't going to explain myself to you. We needed tools and wares to sell, so we took them. The merchants are back in their homes with their skin untouched and togs on their backs. They knew the risk and took it. You flinch when she reaches for your shoulder, but someone is already behind you, keeping you in her range. Her strong hand squeezes your flesh. Do we have a problem here? I shake my head slowly. I needed to know the truth, that's all. You needed, did you? You sigh with relief when she releases your shoulder, but then her strong fingers start to pat the front of your neck. And I need you to know your place. Her hand forms a fist and hits your chest gently. Don't be a kid. Some questions are better left unanswered. Her emerald eyes weigh on you heavier than her touch. She walks around slowly, gesturing for you to follow. What else? There's a plague in all pagans. I have cured it, but maybe we can then tell her that we cured it. She glances at you with her unmarked eyebrow raised. making the difference between the sizes of her eyes even more jarring. You think I don't know what's happening in my land? I don't need your rumours. I reach for the pouch of the necklace. I think this belongs to you. Hearing you reach for something, she leaps away and turns towards you rapidly. But seeing the trinket, she stands still with an open mouth. After a few heartbeats, she clears her throat and reaches towards you with an open, four-fingered palm. So it is, stranger, but I ain't one to keep around sentimental rubbish. She glanced at her boots. Cheers, I guess. I smile and toss it to her. Also, Rafina will make you a new one next time you get home, and she'll kick your teeth out. She observes the necklace in silence, then glances at the nettles as if it should find its rest with them. Finally, she puts it in a sack at her side, and her mouth is torn between a smile and remaining tight-lipped. I ain't sure I like your nosiness, she speaks slowly, but I admit I'd like to see Rafina's kicks in those fancy togs of hers. Her steps seem a bit lighter than usual. I'm trying to find out what happened to Asterion. She doesn't spare you a glance. So, there are some who are convinced that you had something to do with his disappearance. She stops in place and her heavy hand rests on your shoulder, pulling you down. You catch the weak scent of a myrtle, a flower that grows in warmer lands and is often delivered by ships to Hovleven. A bit like a sour fruit, a bit like mint. And who are those some? You notice that two of her front teeth are missing. Elar of Creeks. Dobimim. She takes her hand off you and continues her walk. I had something to discuss with him anyway. I'll use the opportunity to make him remember the value of silence. Can you tell me about the undead in the north? Her armor clinks so loudly that a nearby rook flutters its wings, dashing to the wall. They are around. She meets your eyes, tapping the hilt of her sword. Why do you ask? I wonder if you see them as a threat. Her eyes are filled with fury. What do you think? Those fuckers at White Marshes wake up more shells with every season, no matter where they find them. Deep woods, the swamps, their own beds. If they could. Her hand soars towards your neck, causing you to step away. She stops herself before reaching you, but makes a gesture suggesting a blade making a cut. They would kill us all in our sleep. She strides away and you try to catch up. After a pause, she raises her voice. Shame on the villagers that let them do so. May the right drown them all. Why do you target White Marshes? Why don't you? She turns just her head, giving you an annoyed glance. What good is a Roadwarden, for if there are armies of awoken shells right under their nose? Let me understand the situation so I can do something about it. The brow over her healthy eye furrows with her frown. Are you that blind? There are necromancers in our land. What else is there to tell? These spells have been forbidden since the days before the 10 cities, and the way that the settlements are looking away, their laziness. Her tone is full of disgust. Their separation from all them rights written on our souls by the right. It lets the beasts devour the last shreds of what we, as humans, deserve. She ambles forward without looking at you. I have nothing to gain from telling you some stories. Fight for what's right or fall with all the others. Do you need any assistance? She stops in place, then gestures at a soggy bench. Both of you sit down, but your eyes don't meet. Instead, you observe the dark birds that are pushing and pecking each other over old gruel spread among the nettles. And why would a Roadwarden want to help me? I smile. We all need friends, don't we? She takes a few heartbeats to respond. No, what I have is a family. She glances at the men who observe you from a distance, and I trust them more than I would any stranger. She leans back and looks at the clouds. But you can do some small things for me, and not for free. One of my lads has abandoned his post and taken something very valuable to me. He wants to start his life anew, so he won't use his name, but you'll recognize him. Speaks like someone from my village, he does. While her tone is sarcastic, her eyes remain serious. Young, strong, with the pretty face and blue eyes of a beaten cub. Shaves often. The last tog he had on his back was our black gambazon, matching his short hair. But if he has any wits, he's sold it somewhere already. Does that resemble someone we've met? Not sure. When she crosses one leg with the other, her mail clinks so loudly it makes you flinch. She reaches for her boot, adjusting it with her broad fingers. He doesn't want to be found, but he may need a Roadwarden's help. If so, merely tell me where he hides and I will find him, alright? She straightens up and rises to her feet as if the conversation reached its conclusion. I'll drop you a few coins for your trouble. 4, maybe? Or I can give you a handful of arrows for a crossbow. I don't need them, really. Any tips where to start? If I knew how to answer that, I'd have gone after him already. He was cautious, left a hunting group to take a leak, then sneaked away. The band assumed he got caught by a cat, but I told him to search our supplies. I doubt he took them for a walk, all right. Why did he leave? She thinks about it for a few heartbeats. He's weak, she states, but after seeing your frown, she puts her hands behind her back. He joined us not that long ago. He didn't have any drive, was merely bored with his old life, but was good enough with his knives to impress me. Turns out he wasn't ready for the change he took upon himself, so he left before he paid his debt to me. What will you do when you find him? She frowns, narrowing her healthy eye, as if it's too obvious to be worthy of an answer. What he deserves. What did he take? A small supply of black powder I was saving for a special occasion, for one thing. I'd be ready to forgive him, but betraying my trust and taking our secrets outside is way beyond excuses. I'll tell you once I learn anything, fine. Like to learn more about you? She doesn't even stop. Hire yourself a bard, she growls. Foggy mentions some dark days pushed you to becoming a bandit. More of them than you can count. Or did you think people leave their warm homes to pick easy coins? We have survivors from the long-gone village of Steep House, a lad forced into a marriage by some old pricks with long beards, a cooper whose daughter poisoned himself with daffodil pie, a hunter whose home was lost to a fire, a shepherd who took an oath to clean these woods of wolves, a hungry thief who chose to run away instead of losing their arm. The guards are now more numerous. Some of them look down, casting you shameful glances, while others meet your eyes, keeping their backs straight. We were all wronged by this land, Glaucia carries on, and as her steps grow springy, her mail becomes annoyingly loud. And our work will give us back our pride. I should go. You get back to Roach. The highwaymen stay close to you, not allowing you to approach your blade. Head to the pond. A man with a bare chest gets in your way. And where do you think you're going? We need no spy eyes round here. We aren't going to keep your ugly mug safe from monsters. Buy yourself a tub and an inn. Okay, if I go back to the hamlet, is it just Glaucia there? Yeah, I should go. Let's have a look at the map. Okay, so we did get there. Are we going to continue on to the gate? I suppose we do. Found Glaucia, though. Alright, let's go back to the cairn. Head the narrow path south, maybe. You grab Roach's lead and use your axe to get through the branches and the tall grass. After a few minutes, you reach a colourful meadow with orange, red and white flowers as tall as a wheat field. Their late summer scent lures all sorts of insects as well as tiny birds. The path ends at the edge of the glade. It does feel... I don't trust this place. I'm going back. Let's get right to a different part of the forest. We're going to go west of the gate. Every minute or so you get lost in the dense woods. When possible, you stick to the remains of the beaten path, clearing the overgrown thicket that blocks your way, but it would take many more travellers to sustain such a trail. The land around you may lack greens, but is far from being empty. The fallen boughs and dead stumps are slowly devoured by ants and mushrooms, a web-like labyrinth of wooden walls, while the white termites larger than your hands, continue their never-ending march. Their guards notice your presence, but simply form a warning line in front of their workers. The trees are taller than the temple in the city, with trunks resembling the legs of giants. The shadows they cast are like a carpet, and the few beams of light nourish the sparse bushes and ferns, the only plants that aren't choked by the rotting late summer leaves, shaped like toothed squares as large as your face. Now that I'm more familiar with this part of the forest, I may be able to find a smoother path. The forest gives way to rocks and green hills, but among the tall trees are numerous monkeys sitting in small groups, loud, yet shorter than half your size. They distort the green leaves with red, brown, white and blue fur. As you approach their territory, their excitement grows. They climb up and down the trunks, sway on vines, jump between branches or hang down, putting use to their long tails. They throw at you countless angry glances and grunts, but also cones, branches and chestnuts. A piece of their fresh feces lands close to Roach, but the pack's aim is rather miserable. What's my spell? I don't know about that. Let's just cover our heads with a shield. You ride through the avalanche of missiles, and while the eyes and foreheads of both you and your palfrey are covered, you both experience some painful hits as you move forward. Thankfully, the monkeys don't chase you for long, and after maybe a minute they stay at the edge of their home, only yelling at you. I take a deep breath, noting to myself that I should clean my shield if I pass any streams. Extremely filthy now. How are we doing? Ooh, we're getting close. We're getting close, you know. The air in these bright arid hills is much drier than in the woods. Down below, among the humble meadows, you spot a stone plateau, on top of which a group of bipedal creatures is feasting on a large carcass. From what you can see, only a few of them would reach your knees. But as the pack notices your gaze, it starts to regroup. Goblins? Something like that? For now I just observe them. Kobolds, known for their long tails and colourful scales, rarely bother humans. Their small saurian paws are dabbling in the puddle of blood left by their meal, ribs of which are sticking out of the lacerated stomach. While they make a lot of noise and keep running all over the place, they're far from presenting the threat of the dragonlings. There's about 8 of them and no reinforcements among the rock's faces. The dead animal resembles a mouflon or an ibex. Alright, let's go up to them. You grab your axe and shield and head towards the crag slowly. Climbing to the top is simple enough. You step forward and take a few swings, raising your voice and your taunts. The beasts keep running left and right, stretching out their shells, jumping up and warning you with their shrieks. They are quick, nimble, and as loud as a bird. Finally, it's the largest kobold, whose head is covered with red scales, runs to the rock face and makes an impressive jump onto the higher ledge. The others follow it, leaving you with a few more discontent screeches. You doubt it's the first time their prey gets stolen. Examine the carcass. It's an ibex with brown, elegant fur. Its black horns are broken in half. There's a red knot attached to one of its front angles, a sign of ownership. I guess I'll leave it to the scavengers. A small grey lizard is basking on a rock, but runs away at your sight. Quintus is nowhere to be seen. You wait for a minute or two and he finally opens the gate from the other side.
Warden, thanks for talking with Dalit. She brought me some supplies for my tusks and claws. Things could look better, but you know, I'm not a monster. I can't keep you at the wild's mercy, but you still owe me some food.
I bring good news from old Pagos. The plague is no more.
What? He leans back. Say again?
When you repeat, he tilts his head back and puts his hands on his waist, bursting in laughter, though his voice is still shaking.
Oh, tell me all.
He has little patience, constantly throwing more questions at you about the druid, his plan, your gifts for the magic tree. He's far from happy when he hears about the prolonged seclusion.
Oh, I guess it's fair. I'll stay here for some more time. I don't want to mess stuff up like... I'm not as dumb as a bird.
He smiles again.
Thank you, Warden. Your soul carries duty like no other. I'll be honoured to keep the gate open for you.
He bows to you. Do you know Eudocia, the enchantress? I was wondering if you could place this in your tower for her. You unpack and show him the rod.
Lighter than it looks, he says quietly. I'll squeeze it into a crack. You already helped my people and I know Eudocia. She always does out weird. She was a quiet kid but a smart one. Never tried to steal my milk. Leave it to me.
Some time ago, the few people from Creeks left their home to hunt. Have you met them?
I know nought about people, but I met Vashel.
It takes him a few breaths to notice you're waiting for him to go on.
They spent one night at this tower with me. Came from there, he points at the woods in the east, and then went back there. They were building a trap, somewhere behind the lake. They shared a partridge with me, but never came here again. Good soul, very open-eyed.
I think Vashel may have died somewhere at the heart of the woods.
Shit, he starts, but then nods with acceptance. Too bad. I'd rather have more strong hunters around.
Any idea who could be the owner of an ibex marked with a red knot?
He flinches and narrows his eyes. A red knot? Oh, we use those in my home. Like, not my, but old Pagos.
Why are you afraid of Glaucia?
Warden, I can't talk about her. His shoulders slump, making him look like a wounded troll. I've got to look after the gate for her, or she'll hurt someone. Important to me. If she learns I'm telling stories about her, I'm dead too.
No one uses this road. Why are you here? He scowls at you.
Not no one. It's where people hunt for monsters. Every few days I have to open it for reasons.
Okay, so we go through the woods. Got a little bit hungry and a bit dirty, but apart from that, it wasn't too bad. Wonder why we can't get there. All right. Well, it feels like we've explored pretty much as we can. Let's have a quick think. So we've got 4 3/4 hours before dusk. It's only an hour to old Pagos. We could go and tell them about the sheep, maybe. Return there, but let's go to old Pagos now. We'll tell them about the sheep. Maybe get some money for it. A red and brown ferret looks at you from the middle of the road, holding a mouse in its mouth. It runs away quickly and disappears among the tufts of grass. You approach the open gate and Tertius shows up soon after. You see a hint of a smile in her brown eyes. Oh, it's good to see you again, Sir Boring. I found an ibex marked with a red knot. Was it any of yours? She cocks her head to the left as her brown eyes widen. You found it! Is it safe? After you mention the kobold, she nods. Oh, we had no hopes of seeing it again. Creatures who are used to living with humans won't survive on their own. I'll let the others know. Thank you. Alright, 3 3/4 hours. Can't get to Gale Rocks. That was what I wanted to do next. Could get to the Pell to the north. We've got the message for the innkeeper, haven't we? Let's go there. The light's a promising refuge. The guards have bows and spears in their hands, and some rush to the gate, only to close it again right after you ride inside. Bored with life, Roadwarden? One of them grumbles. Ain't you noticed it's almost dark? Oh, half an hour before dusk. Okay, well, let's get off my horse and enter the inn. We could talk to the innkeeper.
So, you again. Need anything?
Any leftovers?
No, not today. Maybe tomorrow.
About Glaucia's band. He freezes, observing your hands silently. Thais has sent me to the other villages. The bandits are focused on White Marshes, so she's not interested in your deal. Without a word, he puts your payment on the counter, then glances at your nose.
I appreciate that you've been so thorough. You've already done more than I asked for. I still have the crossbow to sell, so let's say we'll lower its price just for you. Keep up the good work.
He walks towards the window, opens it and looks outside.
I was afraid it might be like that. Times will get rough, yet there may never be a threat large enough to unite this bunch of anarchists.
He rests his hand on the windowsill.
I have another job if you're interested. I'll pay you 10 coins for finding out what Glaucia really wants. Ideally not by a direct question, but if there's no other way.
He shrugs. He turns back to you and for a few words looks into your eyes.
And better act before she marks you as her next prey, being a lonely traveller and all. Work with me, and I'll do my best to keep you safe if you ever decide to hide behind our walls.
I'm bringing good news, I guess. Glaucia only has one target right now, and it's the necromancers of White Marshes. You have nothing to worry about, at least when it comes to her. 10 coins. He frowns in disbelief, asking you a few questions about what you've seen in her hideout. Before you finish with the last answer, he empties an already prepared pouch. His gestures are impatient, but the amount of dragon bones matches his promise.
You did what I asked for, so these are yours now. We'll try to hunt in the north before fall, see if you were correct.
Something worries you. He observes the floor for a bit, but finally waves your question off.
Their camp sounds like a well-protected place and hidden in a dangerous spot. He raised his eyes, though only for a moment. If you're wrong, we won't get to them easily. But that's just a thought of mine. Have I got anything he wants to buy? The broken knife and the winged hourglass. That's fine. We've got a bit of money now. We've probably got 21 dragon bones now, I think. What's he got to sell? Still can't afford the crossbow. Ooh, let's buy more rations, then we can give them to the gate guard. Talk to Julia. I found this wax tablet. Do you recognise it? She opens it and takes a quick glance. Well, it's from Hovleven. Asterion and my lieutenant were the only people I've seen with green tablets like this one, and the locals don't write chronicles. She gives it back. I can't read. Better look for a priest to the right. Okay, so we do think it's Asterion's, don't we? Any idea what happened to the ruined village in the west? Nah. There were goblins around the walls, so we never went there, but I was told that the wrath of the herds crushed it, maybe 10 years ago? If there are any survivors, they're surely gone by now. Did you ever enter the road leading through the woods? Oh, I was advised not to. Have you seen this huge gate in the west, made of rocks, very tall? We met a guard there named Quinton, maybe? A kind soul, but a bit slow. He almost begged us not to enter the woods, so we took the longer route. I see. You still have my reward. After a brief scowl, she looks down and shakes her head, snickering weakly. I knew you'd ask me that. Yeah, it's all there. I took everything of value with me. Did you manage to burn the other soldier? No. Scavenger's still here, we can have a chat with him. Nah. We go to the... Maybe we could... yeah, let's clean ourselves a little bit. Let's wash. Yeah, I'm a bit cleaner now. It's night time. So I think we go sleepy. Don't need to heal. Might be worth renting for one. Just will stay clean, recharge pneuma. Yeah, that seems good. Bit hungry. Any leftovers? Not today, no. Maybe tomorrow. Show me your wares. Let's buy more rations then for a gold. So we've got 10 now. So I think we'll eat one now. Doing pretty well here. Leave. So let's have a little think. We can go and give him the... I'd quite like to speak to the elder, actually. I've got an idea that maybe he might know something about that weird statue we saw. What's his name? Humans. I know more people than that. Oh, I did know his name. I've completely forgotten it. Someone else told me it. Oh well. Asking about the ruined village. He lowers his head but keeps looking at her lips. And what do you think happened? It was destroyed by the wrath of the herds? He frowned slightly. 'Tis not everything that happened. Pillaged by humans, then destroyed by monsters? Oh, what's this? The 10-year-old mystery. Ooh. The clues you've gathered suggest that this lazy peninsula went through many changes 10 years ago. Accidentally around the time when the southern village has fallen. You could use what you've learned to ask the locals what exactly happened. Gaining their trust may take a bit of work. Ooh. Okay. He says, yes, you see our shame. You see our shame. What can you tell me about the snake bait? He needs only a breath to recognise it. Ah, 'tis snake bait. He leans a bit closer. 'Tis na rare that rare. 'Tis na that rare, and many people need it. You learn that it's infamous for its alleged power to lure serpents and saurians. When consumed in moderation, it makes the shell more responsive to stimuli and makes periods of sleeplessness easier to bear. Juice from a single leaf is enough to induce hallucinations or an addicting sense of dreamlike euphoria. Using a large dose at once or small doses too often leads to frailty or death. I think it's Ali. Is that it? No. Can you help me wake up the giant from the Far East? His blue eyes are piercing through your skull and chest. The knowledge you gather helps the causes I find dear to me. That much I saw. Here's what you'll do. Kneel in front of the statue and repeat these words. He utters a bunch of nonsense, and seeing your confused look, he lets out a sigh. Ever with these words on your tongue, you'd have nae eyes to see through them. Speak with me and learn. He spends a good few minutes teaching you the phrases from the old speech until you're able to repeat them without mistakes, though also no comprehension. While your tongue is not used to the sounds of some of the sounds, their rhythm makes you think of a poem and helps you a lot. You need nothing more. Okay. Probably travel from here now. So I could get all the way back there. Rocks as well. Okay, I think we're also looking for that guy, aren't we, that Glausier's after. So I think maybe we do a loop round this way. We're going to go to Howler's Dell, Gale Rocks, Creeks, and see if we can find this person who's run away from the bandits. I'm going to go to the Beholder. To do here. Still got to keep an eye out for a gift for this tribe of the Green Mountains. Alright, it's Howler's Dell. I just entered the village. I probably... Let's go to the main square. A Kekios, does he have anything good to buy? Linen sheets. Okay, let's look for the mayor. Let's bring her news from other parts of the peninsula. Ooh. I'm not going to tell her about the bandits' place, actually. Does the druidess need anything? You enter the building site, which has changed quite a bit since the last day of your visit. Elpis is standing in the middle of the yard, surrounded by her companions, yet she needs a few breaths to collect her thoughts. We are glad to see you, Roadwarden. Her eyes make you think of a sky just after a heavy rain. The forest speaker had put us into shame, and we've discussed his words and deeds. Her voice is slow, but you catch its hesitation. We're grateful that the village of Olpagos will share the next summer with us. The lack of the seed will be a burden, but it will bring us to brighter days. Considering what I did for Olpagos, am I worthy of your healing abilities? She smiles gently. Aye, you deserve the help of the spirits. She leans her staff forward, pointing at you with this top. But it'll only happen when I see you barely standing. To stay strong, one should eat, sleep, and rest. Alright. The hamlet was status? What does that mean? She smiles gently, then steps back and bows deeply. Seeing this, the nearby druids also lower their heads. The others may not know it yet, but you've chosen their safety over their greed. Your kind heart will be remembered. Is that the fishing place where we found the mayor's daughter? I'm assuming that's what it is. Does the tailor want anything? I don't think I want any of that. Right, that's fine. Let's travel on. Let's stop off at the gate, and we'll give him 5 rations. A small grey lizard is basking on a rock but runs away at your sight. Quintus is standing by the bushes observing a snake pierced with his spear. Before he turns towards you, he licks his lips. "Salutations, Warden. You hear about the gate?" "I have your food rations." He gives you a radiant smile. He cups his large, scarred hands, waiting for you to give him the packages. Once you're done, he opens a sack of nuts and shoves them into his mouth. The bandage is the only thing that stops him looking like a hamster. "I'd like you to open the gate." "Are you really sure?" "Maybe another time." Alright. So if we are going to open that gate, presumably we can go in there. How long does it take to get to Gale Rocks? It's probably going to be most of the rest of the day, but I do want to go there. Many of the locals greet you with polite nods and friendly smiles. They like me now. Don't really need any other services. What does the Fletcher do? Yeah, nothing useful. The young people looking for a match? Tell Paulus about Timo's conditions. He responds with a smile, then warm laughter. "And that's all, of course, I agree. As long as she teaches me them pyre dances, or whatever it is they do. Tell her I'll arrive with the spring thaw to meet her." His voice lowers suddenly, cut by pain. "Without anyone else, I suppose." He's first to mention the compensation for your service. "You're still helping Marina, right? We've already talked to our head woman. She agreed to reward your work once your matchmaking is done. Be sure to meet her then." I share Shoshi's message with Marina. Her blushing cheeks contrast with the pale skin of her hands. "I can't," she says, after a longer moment. "I thought about our previous conversation, Roadwarden. I'm not ready for such changes. Not just because my son deserves the peace we have now. I'd rather join a monastery than put pleasure above prayer." "You've already matched Paulus, I've heard," she says, without hiding her jealousy. "Go and speak with our head woman. She'll reward your help." I look for someone else. What does the armour do? Don't need those. Go to the head woman. All about, yeah. Follow inside. I believe Paulus and Marina already talked to you. "Right, you work for us. Now I can tell one of my neighbours to overlook the usual fees or duties they ask of you. Do you need anyone's help?" "I may be in need of a boat one day. Use a discount." "Sure." "I doubt it, but very well. I'll speak with Navica, our boatmaker. Most days she works with the carpenters on the eastern bank." "Great." She glances at the exit. "I believe something awful happened to the village in the distant south. Could you tell me anything about it?" A polite smile crosses her lips while her violet eyes remain firm. "I'd rather not talk about it, all right?" After a few moments of hesitation, she continues, but slowly. "A few of the hurt families are still with us, and we agreed to leave it to them if they were to seek retribution." "I could still do some work for you." She runs her eyes over you, then glances at the guard in front of her. "There's something that may be an easy task for a traveller, chiefly one that doesn't talk too much." She reaches for one of her tablets, then nods with approval. "Right, I want you to look around, not ask around. There's a group of spice and tools merchant that was meant to reach our village some time ago, yet they fell silent, most likely taken to the fogs by some beasts. Keep your eyes open. Maybe you'll find their shells or even better wares. Once you learned what happened, I'll pay you." She starts to hum to herself, looking into a pouch from the desk. 5 coins. Just don't speak with any of the tribe about it." She stares at you harshly. "We must keep this between ourselves, and if the merchants turn out to know where to be found, I'll pay you as well." They were robbed by Glaucia. Her gaze is grim, but after a simple "I see," she reaches for a pouch, then puts 5 dragon bones in a single row and pushes them forward. "Thank you for your assistance." You don't sound surprised. She looks at her granddaughter, who, without even noticing, has lowered her crossbow. "I asked Glaucia about this very thing I did." Severina admits. "I don't think you're mistaken, Roadwarden. It's a natural step on her path, but it means she's lied to our people, and I won't be able to avoid the confrontation. Still, I'm grateful to learn it."
reach for the coins. You don't speak with Glaucia. You collaborate with her, and you got betrayed. She looks at her granddaughter and nods at the exit. She frowns, raising her crossbow gently, but obediently leaves the room. The perfumed man removes his hand to the grip of his sickle sword, as they're trying to compensate for the sudden lack of assistance.
Glaucia was born and raised in this village, and many of those who joined her band used to be our neighbours or their spouses. We ain't talking here about some strangers I'd put a bounty on.
Understood. You discuss the matter for some time. You focus on the link between highwaymen and the rare visits of the trading caravans.
I'm sure you've heard about the squad of soldiers sent here by the city.
This is me talking. I'm sure you've heard about the squad of soldiers sent here by the city, you conclude. Their fight at Hag Hills Pass has pretty much crushed them. Once the officials learn that there's yet another group of armed bandits, and fully supported by a crucial trading partner at that, it won't bode well for your current lifestyle. She listens carefully, and her answer is close to a whisper.
Tell me what you propose, stranger.
It's time for your village to join forces with Hovleven. If Glaucia is ready to put your lives in danger, you need to have soldiers at hand, someone ready to maintain the roads and keep the beasts and bandits away. The crossbow woman peeks inside as if surprised there has been no bloodshed yet. Severina reacts to it with nothing more than a glance, staring at you like a statue from above her clasped fingers.
Is it too late to admit I was sure this is where you've been leading me with all your talk? I'm ready to ask the council to listen to you, I am.
She can't completely hide the pain in her voice.
There's been more and more talk of such a treaty in recent years as our lives got harsher than they've been in many decades, and we even grow apart from our neighbours.
Then she notes something on a tablet and gives it to the guard, sharing a telling nod with him.
But I ain't sure yet what's right, stranger, and the elders and head workers won't be too sure either. So you have only one chance to convince us that we should push our family members and friends towards a cliff, and instead of base some outsiders from the city. I don't envy such a task.
Seeing the kind look of her grandmother, the young woman returns to her chair, but at least for now lets her crossbow rest. Very well, I'll speak with you once I'm ready to face the council.
Fine. Oh, sorry. My patience runs short, outsider.
Severina gestures for you to pause.
I'm sure other matters can't wait until tomorrow.
Farewell. Have I met Navica? Oh, mistype. Navica's the best boat maker in the north, says a young boy with a proud posture. Come, I'll take you to her. The carpenters have their space at the edge of the village, separated from the saltery with a stone wall that catches the shavings before they reach the fish, and which are then swept into a pile and moved to the smokehouse. The tiny woman keeps her distance from the other workers, partially because of the many bits and pieces she needs constantly at hand, as well as logs, steamed planks, and a boat keel only a few steps away from her. She must be at least 40, older than any other woodworker in sight. Her light brown hair is in a ponytail, letting her work, and the simple tunic and pants made of hemp in 3 shades of red have short sleeves and legs. Her tanned skin is like dark honey. She glances at you from afar and turns away, cutting some sort of log without pause, as if hoping you won't notice her. The massive broad axe made of fine steel looks even larger as it's resting on her back, and it's engraved with the shape of a toothed eel twisted into a spiral. The kid leaves you alone and you're standing in silence. I've heard you make boats. Yep, I make boats. She doesn't raise her eyes. I have reason to believe you know what happened to Asterion. You tell her what you've learned, and her hands slow, then finally stop. You've some wrong ideas. I don't know where he is now, or if he's alive or dead, just that he needed a small boat. I sold it to him, he took it to the beach, and that's all I've seen of him. Are you saying that you don't know where he set off? She pauses and scowls at you. Yep, that's what I'm saying. I walk away. Mysterious destination. According to the rumours, Asterion has travelled to some unknown island. I'll ask someone who knows a lot about these lands. I wonder who that would be. Got 4 hours. Can I travel anywhere within 4 hours? I can actually get to Creeks, which I wanted to go to. Might stop off at Foggy's on the way. Yeah, let's go to Foggy's. There's a hint of a strange stench and fresh claw marks left on the ground. A large saurian entered and left the yard through the lake. There are dozens of feathers scattered around the yard, as well as some bloodstains on an apron that's hung on the fence. Approach the foragers. Do you often have travellers here?
useful there. Enter the tavern. The air is humid and stuffy. The tables were just washed with a wet cloth. Foggy is standing in the middle of the room, lost in her thoughts. She welcomes you with a smile. What can you tell me about the peninsula? What can you tell me about... Oh, never mind. We heard about the necromancers? Stuff I already know. Learn more about your tavern. Never mind. You seem to be into some expensive drinks. The brassy ones are gifts I received or treasures I found when I was young. I also brought a few, I like to offer something unusual to wealthier or more promising guests. She glances at the trapdoor. I dabble with some recipes myself. I've still plenty of brewing tools, though I can name maybe a half of them. Still, from ales to hard drinks, I had some success. Sorry, I was waiting to get something useful, but I'm just clicking through stuff now because I wanted to get and ask about maybe buy an expensive drink, meals in advance. Yeah, I think that's probably worth it. She wants the troll urine. I think keep that. Next job. Oh, a cask of cider. That's interesting. Oh, hang on. I've already prepared what I need you to take care of. She nods towards a wooden cask that's under the table. It's not larger than your stomach. It's a mighty fine, strong cider. Brewed it myself. The folks at White Marshes paid for it many days ago. It was meant to be a wedding gift, but no soul came to pick it up. Take it to them, dear. I know it's heavy and I bet you're not eager to go there. She chuckles. But 3 coins is going to be plenty fine for you. It's not that far from here. Just don't lose it at a trader's stall. She cracks her knuckles just by making a fist. It's not so valuable that you'd want to sell it behind my back. You ask who is meant to receive the delivery, but she just waves her hand. Just ask for the mayor, Helvius. Consider it done. I was actually thinking with this cask of cider I might take it up to Green Mountain, because they did ask for unusual drinks. Still got some time, so I think I'm going to go. And I'm going to try and travel up to Creeks. I think we got the time. A group of woodcutters wave to you from the copse growing by the river. Both the path and the yard behind the gate bears fresh bloodstains as well as claw marks. Well, let's go to Ephron. About the hunters. Do you recognise this knife? He reaches for it without thinking twice, then brings it close to his face, studying the tiny details of the bone. I do. He whispers, it belonged to Edmond's mother. He lowers it but holds it tightly. But she's not around anymore. Where was it? He interrupts your tale many times, but having little knowledge to spare, you can't satisfy his curiosity. So there's no shell, only a ghoul. Everyone knows what that means. He'll wake up soon. He shakes his head as if to drop the thought. It may be so. One bit of bad news isn't all I. Maybe the others are fine. I didn't examine it, but I'm almost sure I saw Vashel's shell. You explain that the shell was in the deep woods in an area where you'd heard they were heading, and they were beyond help. He keeps chipping in until you tell him to listen to the end. He respects your wish, though he frowns so much that you wonder if he can see you. He observes you for a few moments and lets out a sigh. You're not making it easy on me, friend. He looks into your eyes, then lowers it at the wolf's mouth. I guess all I have is your word. Seems like it. Thanks for the help, friends. Friend. After these words, Ephron is unusually quiet. They aren't coming back, you know. He purses his lips but gives you a slow nod. Aye, you found 2 of us, and knowing that they didn't protect each other, I think there's no point in waiting. We may still be surprised, but... He lowers the wolf's head. Sorry for your loss. Well, we had a deal and you did your part. Thanks, I think. He puts an open palm on his forehead and closes his eyes. Once he notices that the wolf's head obstructs his fingers, he takes it off. Vashel liked this head. His voice is empty. He told me he'd get me an even larger one, He looks at you. There are tears in his eyes, yet his voice is absent. Yeah, we had a deal. I'll join you on your own venture when the time comes. But I need to first close this ordeal. You ask him what he needs, but he puts on the hood and quirks his lips into a shadow of a smile. Nothing from you, friend. I already spoke with the others. The wood is ready for a pyre. We've meat to roast. You did a lot for our little tribe, and we'd love to see you at our table. There may be some tears among us, and there will be laughter, songs, and enough of Foggy's casks to forget a thing or two.
I can't promise anything, but... You suddenly realise the opportunity at hand. A group of vulnerable, dazed souls may open their ears to your requests. If you're on their good side and know enough about them, it'll be a perfect moment to offer them a covenant with Hovleven. I'm sure I can spare an evening. I assume it's Eli who's preparing it. I'll speak to him when I'm ready. Just don't keep us waiting for too long, I may be in your debt, but I want to put all of this behind me. Focus on what's to come. Now let's look for Eli. About the eastern path. There was a big spider at the hunter's cabin, but it's gone now. He observes your cheeks and hands and smiles.
I'm glad to see you're fine, friend. How's the cabin doing?
You answer him a few times and he stretches his arms, then puts his hands on the back of his head. His eyes are absent.
So it'll be an easy restoration, maybe a few logs to swap, and the roof won't do much good anymore.
It takes your pronounced grunt for him to blink a few times and raise the lid of the case.
One for the news.
He puts the first dragon on the tabletop, then another one next to it,
And this one for taking care of the beast.
Thanks a lot. I cleared the bushes leading east of the old stone bridge. His eyes widen and he looks left and right, then whispers,
Why would you do such a thing? Someone may now think there's a path there.
I frown. I need that path. He observes you in silence, then gives up.
Well, I'll trust the Roadwarden's judgment. Wait here for a bit if you may.
He puts away his tools and heads to a distant building. Once he returns, he's holding a wooden plank.
Take this and leave it somewhere on the trail at the bridge, will you? Maybe tie it to a tree?
He hands you an old sign covered with dark reddish paint. Blood there, you think, then ask him if it's not too dark.
It's the only paint we can squeeze out from the plants of our meadows,
he admits, and gets back to his work. Very well. I encountered a fallen tree in the far south. You describe its exact location.
I guess it was unavoidable for this to happen at one point or the other. Too bad it's so far away from here.
He stops his work and turns towards you. So, would you like to help us with that, friend? You ask him what he proposes, and he describes what he calls a day of honest work.
Just come to me some day in the early hours. I still need to discuss this with the tribe, but I'll ask the stronger folk to travel with you to the tree. They'll agree if they feel like the roads can be trusted. Split it into blocks, get it on wagons, bring it here. It won't go to waste, and the road will be cleaned.
When you mention it's going to take an entire day, he agrees.
And you'll get 5 dragon modes for it. Just come to me when you're healthy, and only if you already know what's on the route from here to that point. We'll put a lot of trust into your guidance and protection, Zaboring.
So you want me to get to know the entire route, make sure it's safe enough, then come here in the morning. Yeah. He thinks about your words, then reaches for his case.
You're right, that's a lot. I can't help you much, but at least you deserve 1 bone right away for bringing me the message. Maybe buy some rations for it, or a good rest. Actually, we also need at least 1 day to prepare ourselves.
Thanks. Does he know about the ruins in the south? He freezes for a good moment and finally takes a deep breath, puts away his tools and looks you in the eyes. His fingers are moving slowly as if he's trying to warm them up before playing on a lute.
Don't push me onto those dark grounds, Zaboring. I've been stepping on them for years, but I still struggle, please.
I was wondering about Ephraim. He slowly starts to speak, making sure his tribesfolk don't eavesdrop.
His soul is clouded. He thinks we have no right to waste what the dead have sacrificed for our sake, and that we disrespect them by staying weak. But all of it's just a cloak that hides him. He cares not about respect and about his guilt.
Takes a bit of convincing before he explains what he means by that.
Our father died from claws, our mother from a bad birth. We used to have 5 brothers and sisters, all of them dead now. Some maybe could have been saved, but not all, and surely not by being stronger. Yet Ephraim keeps thinking he had every opportunity to fix the tragedies, and he's to blame for letting them down. Him and I both.
He falls silent,
but at least I try to put my shame to use.
He reaches for his tools again.
We already have everything that we need, a beautiful home, enough food, fewer beasts than ever. It's going to be a rough lifetime for us.
He takes a swing.
But our kids will be fine.
Let's do the funeral rites thing, because it is evening time.
Everything's ready, friend. We'd be glad to have you at our side.
I'm honoured to be invited. The rites take little time and go by without prayers, singing, or sacrifices. The family members share their memories and regrets. Every story you hear is vague, yet accompanied by understanding nods and looks shared among the tribe, as well as chuckles and tears that start long before the conclusion. After the years you spent in Hovleven, it's hard for you to imagine how familiar and intimate all of the people around you are. Even Foggy and her staff are paying a visit. This evening the tavern is closed. You now sit at a table and the first few meals are brought in. The bowls are mostly filled with meat, but it's the humble loaves of bread, slices of cheese, herb sauces, smoked fish and wild fruits that disappear first. The warmth of the bonfire is reaching your hands and face, comforting you whenever a cold gust of wind hits the square. The cooks have pierced the chunks of game meat with long sticks and are holding them in the flames. There may be no priest, but I share the solemnity of the moment. Ooh, I'm full. The wood cracks beneath the flames. You've never seen the village of Creeks as quiet as it is now, but the way the locals face their mourning is anything but lonely. Pats on backs or hands are common, as well as long embraces and whispered condolences. As time goes on, more and more people rest on the stools and chairs, though there are a few exceptions. An old man with no legs is lying on a blanket, served by a girl who seems to be his great-granddaughter. One of the hunters steps away to get back on the watchtower, keeping an eye out for any being that may be lured by the noises. Shoshi is sitting in front of a building, singing about the forests of the past and the gardens of tomorrow. The cooks are bustling about, bringing supplies from the House of Gatherings and taking care of the roasting meat. Most of the children are only half awake. As the cups get filled with mead, ale and cider, brought here by Foggy, Ephraim is the first person to sit down next to you, and loudly, though he's still observing the flames. His wolf cloak is nowhere in sight, though from time to time he reaches towards his head as if he's not used to the wind brushing his black hair, now shining in the dancing light. Judging by the way he sways and how absent his eyes are, he opened one of the casks a few hours back. How are you holding up? I'm using my privilege of being still alive to heal. He starts with confidence, but then his voice cracks. Folks say I did nothing wrong, but I could have, said no, stopped them. And I've seen how what's-her-face, Dahlia's little sis looks at me. She's only 10 and now alone. I'm as useful as a spirit. Once you figure out what he's talking about, you try to respond, but he interrupts you by pointing at you with his mug. I'm now in your dead eye. We going on a journey? His eyes shift into anger. I was losing my wits waiting for this evening. You kept me for so long, waiting. Can't you see those were my friends? As he rambles, his thoughts wander off somewhere else, and before he gets back to you, Eli gives him a pat on his back and places a full mug in front of you. I smell the contents before I drink anything. You catch the sweetness and distinctive aromas of roasted malts. A single sip makes you think of a cookie coated with caramelized sugar, something you smelled a few times among the city stalls, though you never bought more than one at a time. The beverage is much stronger than most beers and ales you've tasted, but far from being dull, so you decide to enjoy it slowly. The carpenter nods approvingly, grabs himself a stump and joins you with his own slow drinking. All three of you stare into the flames, hardly noticing a few more tribesfolk that gather behind you. The carpenter breaks the silence. How are you doing, Saboring? Life's been treating you good in the peninsula? I've had some good days. I feel like I'm making progress. Wonderful. He strokes his stomach and meets your eyes. Just don't disappear like a Asterion. He'd rather chase after something his whole life than walk away with little. Not unlike me, but also... He tilts his mug, pointing the mouth of it at the flames. Not unlike them. After a few moments you realise that almost all of the adults are gathered behind you, observing you keenly. As the tension rises, you think about your blade, now resting by your saddlebags. It's Ela who asks the question. We owe you a lot, Saboring. Why do you really help us? Hovleven wants to reach this land. For your own sake, you should join it. Taxes for their protection, loyalty for the renewed trading route. Old Hover was right, says one of the farmers. So that's why they sent the second one, adds a woodcutter. The fuss stops as quickly as it started, cut by the loud voice of the drunk Ephraim. Let the Roadwarden make a case for it. You glance at the eyes of the locals. Some of them are distrustful, others are curious, and a few are excited. Even though you already recognise many of these faces, the dancing flames make them look like a strange crowd awaiting a prophecy. So we've got a few choices that we can tell them. You want to go crops? We have no experience. Old Hever is quick to mention that the fine grain will cost much more than the seeds of wild fruits and vegetables, but as soon as she finishes, one of the other hunters confronts her.
Ava, you always know how to plant these seeds. I've heard about the plant beds having nothing but... Sorry, Hava, you don't always know how to plant these seeds. I've heard about the plant beds having nothing but grass for more than a year. As he mentions it, the other farmers observe their boots as if to avoid the angry headwoman. Once the argument between the two gets a bit too bitter, Ephron nudges you to go on. Recent migrations of beasts. Beasts don't enter our valley, says one of the hunters, but is quickly shushed. Yet, added a one-handed farmer harshly, while a herbalist with wavy hair points to the bonfire. And even if it's turning into a prison. Some of the locals nod in agreement, but old Hava's turn is far from docile. Better to have a troll in the yard than a dragon in the bed. Depending on animals, to keep you alive to butcher is not a safe way to deal with winters. Some of them don't meet your eyes, as if to avoid admitting to the days of hunger. Ephron lets out a sigh. At the beginning of summer, I'd say. He pauses to break through the cloud of drink. We had more hunters than ever, but... He takes a glance at the bonfire and turns back to the crowd quickly, clenching his teeth. Elar observes him for a moment, but doesn't comment on his behaviour. We do have a field now. It may not be so bad. The rest of the tribes adds to both sides of the argument that no conclusion is reached. Lack of wood, no proper lumberjacks. Our wall has been enough so far, starts one of the farmers, but his partner, now holding an arm around his back, is more doubtful. We'd ask children, chicken and food to the smaller beasts. We don't have enough eyes to watch everything. Elar chips in with enthusiasm. If we hope to grow our families or invite new folks, we need more homes, more ground, a new wall. I'd rather have it be a strong one. Some of the locals would rather see more effort put into the new fields rather than a wall. One bad fire in the forest and we go hungry, mentions the forager, and a few others agree. I'm not going to mention the plague because I've cured it, so the only choice left to me is it's risky, but you know me well, I have your trust, I wouldn't try to trick you. A surprised muttering spreads through the tribe, and you even hear a louder, "What's this outsider talking about?" Once the locals start giving you angry looks, Ephron's the first one to address you. For our tribe, you're but a stranger. If we were to ever trust you, better use your thoughts, not your heart. The group either nods in agreement or observes you harshly. Okay, I'll mention the plague, but I've cured it. If you're so eager, maybe it's you who should stay around, mentions Shoshi, but her herbalist friend shakes her head. We need not one soul, but a way to find many in its place. Plagues are stronger than one shell and will. Even though she says so. And many in the tribe give you warm smiles. I have nothing more to add. Then it's time for the discussion and the vote, announces Elar, gesturing for everyone to form a circle, and Foggy agrees. And fast, we wake up early. I want to reach the tavern. Oh, sorry, this is Foggy. And fast, we want to wake up early. I want to reach the tavern soon after sunrise. Oh, and love. She looks at you with a wolf-like grin. Better take care of that before it burns. She points at a piece of roasting mufflon. For the next half an hour or so, you listen to a lively discussion, and the opinions are mixed. Many doubts are raised, some of which get buried by pointed replies and references to your previous deeds, but others stand strong. Finally, the voting occurs, and it takes a good few breaths to count the hands. Then you hear the result. The margin is small, but it's a no. Shit, I stand up. A few clap, the most of them follow, adding a bunch of cheerful laughter and shouts. Elar spreads his arms, though his eyes are unconvinced. We will not participate in any negotiations for 5 more springs, he announces, starting another wave of joy. A few of the locals approach you to share a kind word and to wish you a safe journey to the city. You recognise that they are part of the Eye crowd, though their looks are far from sadness. The lively feast continues, and the tension leaves your shell. All you have left are heavy eyelids and some time to kill. I think I'm just going to go to bed. Okay, the rains hit the ground, interrupting your sleep. Another day of muddy roads. Brilliant. You reach a pile of furs and allow yourself to skip some of your chores, dozing off right away. In the morning, you feel ready for action. There are loud conversations coming from the main square, where people are sitting with plates of cold meat and bowls of gruel, chatting about the plans for the day. Some of them wish you a great day. Roach is well rested and satisfied with grass. Okay, well we're gonna leave it there for today.
I think we made some progress. Let's have a look. What did we do? We made it through the woods. We met the bandits. We ticked off a couple of quests, I think. We got some more stuff to do in the east now. We're going to go and see Eudocia and tell her that we finished off her rods. We're going to go to that statue and try the words that the old man down here gave us. And I'm going to try and use the cider we got from Foggy to see if that's a good enough gift to give to the tribe. Hopefully it is. We've also got something to do here for Elar as well. So we're going to head east in the next episode, but we'll leave it there for now. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, then please do hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you've not done so already. That'd be amazing. And in the meantime, I'll see you again for more Roadwarden. Bye for now.